You're just going to interject all the time. You're going to interrupt.
But this time, I went and climbed today.
You went and climbed. Okay.
And then I went and then...
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bronze Metalist podcast, the world's most brutal music appreciation class. My name is Kayle, and I'm your tutor, your coach, your drill instructor. Drop down and give me 10 right now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a pitiful effort, recruit.
I'm sorry.
What's your name?
My name's Jaryn Homiston, Sergeant.
Oh, God, don't. Just do it regular.
My name's Jaryn Homiston. I am your student, your dumbfounded little brother that you have to educate. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
You're my little brother now?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You are my drill sergeant and my older brother.
This is a podcast where we talk about metal. This week, we're starting a brand new unit in our class. It's called Death Metal December. So all month long, we're going to be listening to death metal albums to, I guess, really stick it to Christmas music.
Yeah,
the
get
furthest
out of here, Christmas music.
It's the furthest thing from Christmas music. It could not be further away. But yeah, we're going to be listening to that all month. This week, he listened to Nightmares Made Flesh by Bloodbath. But before we talk about that, got some other stuff to talk about. Jaryn, you almost died today.
I did. You guys almost lost out on one half of this podcast.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, you'd just have to...
I just would have grabbed leave.
That's true.
I would have just grabbed my roommate and made him listen to all this.
That's very true. I work at a climbing wall here at the college that we go to. And I was climbing by myself because it was during the off hours. And I was climbing with an extra 25-pound plate strapped to my back. And I was about 20 to 25 feet off of the ground up on the wall. And I realized that I had not strapped myself in to the auto belay. So if I would have slipped, I would have fallen all the way to presumably a few broken ribs.
How did you not strap yourself in? Did you just why would you have forgotten to do that?
One of my coworkers did it the other day, but he made it 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and I was like, that's so dumb. How would that happen? What happened was I was by myself, and I, plugged my headphones in. I've got my music blasting.
Were you listening to Bloodbath?
I don't think I was listening to Bloodbath. I've been listening to the Dillinger Escape Plan a lot.
Okay.
Just the album that we went over last week. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you should really check out some of the other stuff too. It's pretty much all in the same vein.
Yeah. But so I had my music on. I was, strapped the weight on, chalked up my hands, was looking at the route that I was going to do, started climbing, and then the earphones I had aren't real good ones, so that one of them fell out, and I kept climbing, and I was like, why is it so quiet? There's no, the noise of the machine pulling isn't happening. And I turned around, I looked down at the ground, and there it is, still anchored to the floor. And I was like, get down. So as fast as I could, I down climbed, and I didn't die.
So how far were you up?
25 feet.
Oh, geez.
Which the average, I would say, at least in the state in which we live, it's 40 feet is the tallest rock wall.
Yeah.
I was ways up there.
See, the farthest I've ever fallen, I mean, it was only 8 feet. It was from the same level as the eaves of my house.
Okay.
And my dad and I were, and I was 13, I think. And my dad and I were, we were reshingling the roof, and I was helping my dad out. And we had the scaffolding set up in kind of this unsteady area of ground, and one of the legs of the scaffolding started sinking into the mud, and I lost my balance and just fell backwards and right onto my back.
Oh, gosh.
Thankfully, it was I want to say it was April or something like that.
Okay.
Either that or it might have been September. I don't remember, but the ground was soft. It wasn't hard,
frozen.
Yeah, frosted ground or whatever that we'd have now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was okay, but it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah, it's
my dad fell off the roof one winter and shattered his heel in 3 places. The string of obscenities that left his mouth was colorful, to say the least. It was legendary. But yeah, I'm glad that you're not dead.
Me too.
And that you didn't fall 25 feet. This week I had you listen to your first death metal album, Nightmares Made Flesh, by the Swedish Death Metal supergroup Bloodbath. Interesting stuff about Bloodbath. They were originally founded as a side project for members of a whole bunch of different Swedish death metal bands or progressive metal bands, that sort of thing. Most notably, Michael Ackerfeldt from Opeth, Dan Swano of Nightingale, and tons of other projects. Jonas Renske, I think I'm saying that right, and Anders Nystrom from a band called Catatonia. Those are kind of the most well-known people that were in this band.
So are they? Time. This band is pretty famous now.
Yeah, I would say,
or not necessarily famous, but like well respected.
Yeah, I would say Bloodbath is now a pretty well respected band. But the thing that you have to understand about Bloodbath is when they started out and when they were recording this album, they were mostly just a side project.
Yeah,
and so they were meant to be fun.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me that something like that like you're not top priority. It'd be like if we were doing this podcast and then we're like, you know what, for fun, we're going to get together with a couple different podcasters and do whatever. And then it turns out and that ends up being the successful thing.
Yeah. Well, and all these other bands were successful. Opeth is ridiculously successful.
Yeah.
And they don't even really do like death metal anymore. They lean more towards progressive rock, which they've always kind of leaned towards, but like the last, I believe, 3 albums have been pretty barren of any death metal influence. Interestingly, Michael Ackerfeldt is not on this album. He is on their first EP, their first album, then he's on their second EP and their third album. And so he skipped over this album. Peter Tagtgren. Scandinavian names, man.
Yeah.
He was from a band called Hypocrisy, is another death metal band, and he was brought in to do the vocals on this album. Additionally, Dan Swano was originally on the drum kit for their first album. He switched to doing rhythm guitar. He was replaced by Martin Axenrot, which is his actual last name is Axenrot, which is sick. Like that's a very, very, I believe that's his actual last name. It sounds Scandinavian to me, and it's metal as hell. And he's the drummer for Opeth. When this album came out, I don't believe they were doing any tours or really any live shows. They would play festivals every once in a while.
Yeah.
But they weren't a serious death metal band.
So they were kind of just releasing this music just to be like, here's this, we wanted to have fun with something.
Yeah, It was meant to be kind of I believe Michael Ackerfeldt has talked about it. I've, seen a couple of interviews with him about his time with Bloodbath. And it was meant to be kind of a fun send-up to all of the death metal bands they grew up listening to.
Okay.
Because this less serious style of death metal is kind of... It was what was more popular when death metal started out, to just have these ridiculously gory lyrics that aren't serious necessarily. Yeah. They're just like, they're meant to evoke like a horror movie, because that was what these guys liked. They were horror movie buffs and, all this other stuff. I think Scandinavian death metal has had a lot more influence from black metal, and so you do get some more serious elements in there, because black metal is, on the whole, a very serious subject. And I can't go down that hole, because black metal is just a pit of all this crazy shit that's happened. But they get, kind of a flair for theatricality that a lot of United States death metal bands don't have. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be that theatrical, fun, kind of silly lyrics. Yeah. There's one song on here that it's my least favorite song on the record is Eaten. That one is... It's catchy, which is weird for a death metal song, and that's part of why I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's the lyrics are just so silly. Interestingly, I didn't know until this morning, actually, when I was just checking up on stuff that I knew about Bloodbath. I didn't know that it wasn't Michael Ackerfeldt on this album doing vocals. And I thought, like, oh, he's just doing kind of a different style, because it sounds kind of like him, but I was like, oh, this isn't Michael Ackerfeldt. And then when I listened to a little bit of the Fathomless Mastery after that, which is the album after this that has him on it, I was like, oh yeah, there is a huge difference between Tagtgren and Ackerfeldt. And it kind of blew my mind. The album was well received. It gets a 4.5 out of 5 from both AllMusic and Sputnik Music, and an 8 out of 10 from Blabbermouth.net and Metal Storm. So a pretty well received album.
That's pretty good.
That being said, while I enjoy this album and I like it, there's nothing special about it. It's part of why I chose it for your first death metal album. This is kind of the bog standard, old school death metal style. There's nothing super challenging going on here, but there's enough there to kind of ease you into it, hopefully. So do you feel like that's what happened, or what were your like overall feelings about the album?
I enjoyed it. It was weird because it was like the first album I couldn't understand the lyrics. Like
On Converge, you can.
yeah, like the first album that we did on this. Couldn't understand, and then the Dillinger Escape Plan could understand, but it was
Yeah.
like a different type of singing.
Yeah.
And then this, it was like, I don't want to say a mashup because I might be wrong, but it was like he was screaming, but at the same time I could hear what he was saying.
A lot of traditional death metal vocalists tend to, or at least in the last 20 years or so, they tend to enunciate quite a bit more.
Yeah.
If you listen to like early death metal, there's not a lot of enunciation going on. And then some like really underground bands, like we mentioned Pissgrave last week. That is completely and utterly unintelligible.
Yeah.
You cannot understand a damn word that's being said on any of their stuff. I find their sound interesting. Pissgrave's not really my thing. They're a little too lo-fi. So you could understand some of the lyrics a little bit better. Okay.
But no, I enjoyed it. It did seem, and I didn't know if it was just because this kind of happens with every like music genre where when you're first getting into something, everything sounds the same.
Yeah.
But like this kind of was like, not that it was bad, but it just sounded like it wasn't, like it was, I don't know, like you said, it was like the base of what we're going to do moving forward. It felt like that to me, like not even knowing. It just felt like this is kind of the jumping off point.
I can't wait till we get to Obscura by Gorguts, because I think that one's tough for me.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously we'll talk about that later on in the month, but this is kind of the standard death metal album. I guess I was originally going to have you listen to Cannibal Corpse, but Cannibal Corpse is such a popular band. There's so much that is known about Cannibal Corpse, and like they appear. Have you ever seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective?
I have.
Do you remember the scene where he goes into a club and there's a death metal band playing?
Yeah.
That's Cannibal Corpse.
Oh, serious? Was it actually them?
Because it's actually them.
That's
Because
awesome.
Jim Carrey was apparently a fan of like death metal, and he still is. Like he mentions in an interview liking Napalm Death, which is a grindcore band, other bands like that, and he wanted to get Cannibal Corpse in the movie, and they originally weren't going to do it, and then they were like, no, Jim really wants you in the movie. And so they were able to sync up their tour schedules and
that's awesome,
and get into the movie, which is interesting, and like that brought them a certain amount of fame and whatnot. But like, Cannibal Corpse is the most popular death metal band in the world by sales alone.
Yeah,
and I just didn't want to talk about that because to me, there's nothing really that special about Cannibal Corpse. You know, when I got into death metal, that's not what I listened to.
Yeah.
Like, when I was getting into death metal, my road into old school death metal, I listened to deathcore for a while, and I still do. I think now, for a lot of people my age, that's kind of how they've gotten into old school death metal, is through deathcore. So I listened to, like, Cattle Decapitation, which is they're not super popular, but they're fairly popular, but they're really, really talented and do a lot of crazy stuff. And you'll be listening to Cattle Decapitation in a couple of weeks as well. But back to Bloodbath. I mentioned that Peter Tägtgren was the vocalist on this record. This is the only record that he's on. Mm-hmm. He would be replaced by Michael Ackerfeldt on the next album.
Did he know that when he was like that he was just
just going to be there for this record? I don't think so.
Was it I'm filling in, or was it like hey, that other guy left, so I'm going to come in?
Okay, so in February 2005, Tägtgren left the band due to conflicting schedules. So apparently Bloodbath's schedule, because they had started playing live shows at this point and, you know, getting on tours and doing festivals and that sort of thing. Apparently it conflicted with Hypocrisy, which was his main band. Mm-hmm. And so he decided to commit to that, which was originally the reason that Michael Ackerfeldt had left, so he could focus more on Opeth.
That's funny that they flip-flopped like that.
Yeah. And then after that, Ackerfeldt rejoined the band for a live show in Germany, which is the Wacken Open Air Festival. They apparently didn't get another lineup ready until their next album, when Michael Ackerfeldt would rejoin them, and he just recorded the vocals for the album. He didn't officially leave the group until 2012.
Okay.
But I don't know how much touring they did at that point. And in an interview that I watched with Michael Ackerfeldt, he said that the band was getting too serious. for him at that point, because it was supposed to be just this fun, like, oh yeah, it's a big send up to all the bands we grew up listening to, and it started to turn into this. Yeah, no, this is a serious, death metal band. We're not just making old school stuff anymore. This is, we want to make serious music.
Yeah. It's hard, I think, with a side project. I guess with anything, if it's supposed to be just fun and then it is morphing into something you have to put like a serious amount of time into and thought.
It turns into more work than
it stops being
fun.
a hobby and starts being a job.
Yeah. Eventually, he was replaced with Nick Holmes. He's in a band called Paradise Lost, and then Per Eriksson came in on rhythm guitar for Grand Morbid Funeral, which is their most recent album that was released in 2014. So I mentioned earlier one of the songs that I didn't like, which is Eaten, because it's just corny. Like Eaten is it's a very corny song. But what were some of the songs that stood out to you, if any?
I really liked the first song, "The Cancer of the Soul."
Okay.
I don't know. It's just like, because I started listening to it while I was setting at the rock wall, and it just like, I don't know, it really hyped me up, and it got me going. Might be Soul Evisceration. There's like, and it happens in other songs too. There's a part where he was like, it was his vocals, and then like halfway through it transitioned into a guitar. Do you know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
Like you hit a note, and then you're holding that note, and then at some point you fade out and the guitar fades in, so it sounds like the level doesn't cut.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do it. So like I just remember listening to that, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like
some audio engineering wizardry.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know how you do that, because it's in like, rap songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A singer will hit a note and it transforms into whatever.
Speaking of like cool vocal stuff like that, one of the things that I like, he does it on Cancer of the Soul and a couple other songs. Tygren has this really very powerful sustained high note that he can do that just keeps on climbing and climbing and climbing. And I watched a live performance of Michael Ackerfeldt when he came back to the band, and he was trying to do Cancer of the Soul, and like Ackerfeldt has a very, very deep and like, if you want to talk about like guttural vocals, Ackerfeldt's regular scream is like kind of this very low guttural death growl that he doesn't really need to do anything, because he has a very low voice, but he couldn't do that high note. And I don't know if Tygren could do this live, but like it just keeps on climbing and climbing and climbing and getting higher and higher. And I was very impressed with that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of vocalists that can get that high but still have it be that intense. Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation can do very, very impressive high notes, but they aren't quite as gritty. They're a bit smoother, I suppose. My favorite song on the album is probably Stillborn Savior, which is maybe an offensive title for the religiously inclined. I really like high-tempo death metal. I tend to lean towards, they call it death grind, which is a mix between death metal and grindcore. People consider Cattle Decap to be a death grind band. Mm-hmm. I tend to lean a lot more towards faster tempos, and Stillborn Savior really delivers on that, especially in the first part. In the opening, it's just boom, fast, fast, fast. And I love it.
When they do the drums, and it's like, it's almost unimaginably fast. Is that somebody on the drum set?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because
they have a double bass pedal.
Okay.
Death metal drummers get very, very fast, and like grindcore drummers can get extremely fast. There is this deathcore band. It's like one of the most cliched deathcore bands. They're called Infant Annihilator. They're relatively popular. They have a ton of views. They play an electric drum kit.
Okay.
So there is a person playing it, but it is all electrically actuated, and they have what's called triggered drums, where you don't need to hit the drum set very hard, and it'll play a digital recording of that of the bass drum sound. So it allows you to hit it much lighter, and therefore you can hit it faster. And still have it sound good. And the drummer for that band has a video of him going up to, I believe, something like 400 beats per minute.
That's crazy.
Nothing on this album gets nearly that fast. And I'll show you, I think, some videos after that. Now that you're so intrigued by this. Death metal drummers are some of the, maybe not the most technically skilled, but the fastest.
Well, it's just crazy because, like, I would say, like, even, like, I can go as fast as I can. I'm not saying that I'm in the league that these guys are in, but, like, I can go as fast as I can for, like, 3 seconds, and then I'm going to get off, and it's going to get slower. These guys hit speeds that I can't even think about, and then they just carry it through. Like, it's not like they go, and then it slows way down. It's like it continues to be that.
And some bands will do that, and those particularly fast sections of drum are usually called blast beats. It depends on... Death metal tends to use a lot of blast beats. Some songs, not so much. But it's usually accompanied by somebody strumming very fast on a guitar as well. And that's called a blast beat. Apparently, blast beats originated in jazz, as I understand. And if you... an interesting thing that we didn't talk about a whole lot last week with the Dillinger Escape Plan is a lot of their stuff is sort of influenced by jazz, because jazz is sort of the archetypal, like, hey, crazy time signatures.
Yeah.
So, like, freeform jazz is that sort of thing. And the drumming on that is very impressive as well. Death metal drummers, very fast, if not necessarily the most technically skilled. Death metal usually doesn't deal with a lot of crazy time signatures. Once you get towards progressive death metal like Gorguts, progressive death metal and stuff like that will do a lot more crazy stuff with songwriting rather than just speed. I talked earlier, we went to get some food before this, and I talked about how much I don't like Bloodbath's first album, Resurrection Through Carnage. I don't care for that album primarily because of the production. There's nothing wrong with the playing of the guitar, and there's nothing wrong with the vocals. The vocals actually sound okay, but the guitar tone is so bad. I don't know how to describe it. It's like entirely digitized and flat. We listened to a little bit. I had you listen to a little bit of it.
It sounded like when you like first plug the guitar in and there's like that buzz. It sounded like that, but it would change.
It sounds bad, and the production is not great in general.
Yeah.
But like the guitar tones I despise. I tried listening to it earlier this week and I was like, "Oh my god. It's so bad." I don't want to listen to the rest of the album. I've listened to it every once in a while and I haven't really paid attention, but now that I was like, "Oh, I'll listen to this first one." Oh my god.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it. This one, thankfully, not like that. All of Bloodbath's other work I can recommend as well.
Yeah.
Their newest album is called Grand Morbid Funeral. It came out in 2014 with their new vocalist Nick Holmes. I think they did a very good job on that. They've been touring internationally over the last couple of years. They've definitely grown out of being a side project band. You know, a lot of their members still are a part of other relatively large bands, but they've grown out of that and they're now a proper supergroup. Supergroups have been a thing in metal and music in general forever and ever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't feel too great about supergroups because it's like they're just doing this for a quick buck or something like that. Because people see, oh, this guy are attached to it. I gotta go see that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're disappointing. But I think Bloodbath has really learned how to deliver on having a lot of these guys that are very skilled and very experienced making better albums because of that.
Yeah, it's like watching the Pro Bowl in football. You get all the studs from all the teams across the NFL, and then the Pro Bowl game sucks because everybody's just
because they don't know how to play with each other.
Yeah, they're like, I've never been on your team, and they're also like, I'm getting paid $10 million to just show up, so I'm not gonna play hard. I'm not gonna hurt myself. But every once in a while, you'll get a team that like they all collectively decide they want to actually play the game well. Yeah. And then you get a fun game to watch.
Or you get like the dream team or whatever, the Olympic basketball team.
And it's just garbage because...
Well, no, the Olympic basketball team.
With the basketball team.
Yeah, with Kobe and like LeBron James and... What was that for a couple? It was like Kobe, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and like a whole bunch of people on the Olympic team and just crushing everything. I don't know a lot about sports.
Yeah,
so.
I thought you were still talking about NFL football. I was like, no, the Pro Bowl usually is bad.
You know when Kobe Bryant played football?
No, but yeah, when the studs actually get together and they have time to practice and they're like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Then it's fun to watch because then you're playing at the highest caliber. But when it's just a bunch of guys who are like, let's get an extra $10 million and go play on a dream team.
And I think Bloodbath has definitely accomplished that level of being able to really work together and make something that isn't just, we're just doing this for fun.
Yeah.
they've really made these last couple of albums good and serious things, which is that's why Michael Ackerfeld left, because it was like, I just wanted to do this for fun.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's becoming too much work, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think more death metal is always good. There's problem of oversaturation of a market, which is an entirely different subject that we don't have time to talk about. Speaking of time, we're about at it.
All right.
I felt okay about that discussion.
Yeah.
I did all my research this morning, so.
Well, good. That's how I do most of my college presentations. So
yeah,
works.
The professors in college usually wait till the last minute too, so students can as well.
Yes, half of my professors don't even know which class they're in when they walk in. They'll be like, "Is this
which class? Oh, he's here. This must mean this class is."
Are we doing calculus today, or is this a history class? I don't.
I would hope that the same person is not teaching calculus and history. I didn't think our school's budget was that tight.
No,
where they have to have the math professors teach history. My goodness. Anyway, my name is Kayle. Thank you very much for listening. Before we go, I would like to remind you guys, if you're out there listening to us on iTunes, you can check us out on Facebook at Bronze Metalist Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Bronze Metalist, as well as on Instagram, which is also at Bronze Metalist, I believe.
Yes.
Just search Bronze Metalist and it'll come up.
You get to see what I look like. I'm growing.
Yeah.
I'm currently growing my hair out. I'm going to try to get it past my shoulders. Like us on Instagram, and you can kind of keep up with the day.
You get to see our faces if you don't know what we look like. Yeah, so check us out on social media. Give us a like. Every little bit helps to kind of get word out there. Tell your friends. Tell your friends about us if you like the podcast. If you guys out there listened to Nightmares Made Flesh, leave a comment below on any of those social media sites. On Libsyn, on our podcast page, you can leave a comment there as well. Tell us what you guys thought about the album. Next week, I am having Jaryn listen to Effigy. Drum roll. There we go. So next week, I'm having Jaryn listen to Effigy of the Forgotten by Suffocation, which is an American death metal band. It's a really good album. One that I recently got into. Suffocation's a band that I've recently started to get into. And it's a really important album in the history of death metal. So that's what he'll be listening to next week. If you guys want to listen along, go ahead. I'll be posting links where you can listen to the album on Facebook. Once again, my name is Kayle.
My name is Jaryn.
This has been Bronze Metalist. Tagline pending.
Tagline pending.